Learning new things is a common topic on this channel, and as I've said previously, one of the best ways to learn is by reading. If there's something that you want to learn, there is very likely a book out there on how to do it. Well, at the beginning of this year, I talked about a goal that I had to read one book per month. And how is that goal going? Bad. Very bad. As of mid-July, I had only read one book for the entire year. So I decided that I would do a challenge to read every single day for 30 days. This video was to document the process, talk about what I learned, and also to hold myself accountable a little bit. Throughout this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience and giving some of the insights that I had while going through this process. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Tyler Warlow and I go by The Mengineer. I make videos on how to improve your life through your confidence, capabilities, and overall happiness. If this video seems interesting to you, let me know with a like and subscribe to the channel to join me along in this self-improvement journey. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the video. Good morning, y'all. So today's gonna be day one of my reading challenge in order to help me meet my annual goal of reading. We're gonna be starting off with a book that a manager of mine recommended called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. So I'm gonna have to read about 2 books a month to meet my goal, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this because I feel like I keep procrastinating, but wish me luck. I've heard this is a really good book and I'll give y'all my insights whenever I finish it. Thanks, guys. So generally speaking, the main types of books that I like to read are some sort of books that help me to learn something new, whether that's self-improvement or on a topic that I don't know much about. I'm more of a nonfiction reader than a fiction reader. However, I've learned that if I try to read nonfiction where I learn new things right before bed, it actually has a tendency to keep me up. So if you're like me at all, I recommend sticking with fiction books right before bed because when I start reading nonfiction and learning new things, I start to get all these ideas and thoughts that are just running through my head, and it starts to get me a little bit too excited and I start having trouble falling asleep. So that was one of the first things I learned from this process. Hey guys, I just finished my 4th day of reading. I'm still on Extreme Ownership, but I realized something that personally worked best for me was determining how much I needed to read in the next 30 days and taking the pages of the book and dividing it by that number of days. That helps give me a benchmark for how much I have to read each day, but I've actually found that I'm reading more than that and I'm ahead of schedule. One of the things that I didn't really anticipate about this so far was that as I started reading, I would continue to get more interested in the book and want to keep reading. There's actually been instances where I wanted to keep reading but had to stop because I had other things that I needed to do in the day. So I always forget about this aspect when I stop reading for a little bit, but it really brings back the enjoyment of reading in a way that I didn't expect. So I really haven't been having to worry about hitting that page number every single day because I am already past it because I've been enjoying the book that I've been reading so far. One of the other things that I've been doing to kind of help cement the knowledge of what I'm reading in my head is at the end of each chapter, writing a brief summary and then how that applies to the work that I'm personally doing. Before, when I would just do the summary, it would kind of just be reiterating the concepts of what I was doing. But if I write something that applies to the work that I'm actively doing, it helps me to remember the information a little bit better. So that's just a quick tip for y'all if you're interested in doing something similar. One of the first things I wanted to talk about was why do I want to read more? There's so many different ways that we can learn nowadays that is it really necessary to read? And I make the argument that no, you don't necessarily need to read in order to learn new things. However, I've noticed that when I try to learn new things through having on a video or a podcast in the background while I'm doing other things, I don't retain as much information. And that's because I tend to get focused on doing other things while I am trying to learn that new thing rather than focusing on the information in that podcast. As a result, I learned some things here and there, but I don't really retain a whole lot of it. The benefit to me reading is that I am forced to give my attention to that specific topic for whatever period of time. This helps me to retain more of the information that I would have rather than if I was listening to like an audiobook in the background. One of the other benefits that I've noticed while trying to force myself to read more often is that it gives me an opportunity to disconnect from my mostly digital world. In my job as an engineer, I do a lot of work on the computer as well as a lot of video editing for YouTube. So I spend a lot of time on the computer and the internet. And every once in a while, it's nice to get a break from those things. The internet is a wonderful thing, but when you're constantly getting bombarded from different sources of information in different types of formats, all on this screen that is meant to capture your attention, it can get a little bit overstimulating sometimes. So I've noticed one of the better effects that I've had from forcing myself to read is it gives me an opportunity to disconnect from all that. And I can also do that in situations that are away from the digital world, such as outside. And it allows me to kind of have a moment to breathe and be outside and be away from everything else. So even though I am reading the book to learn something new, it is helping to give my brain a bit of a break from just the constant bombardment of overall information that I'm getting whenever I'm on the internet. It allows me to stay focused for a longer period of time because I don't have other things that are trying to pull my attention away from the thing that I'm focusing and reading on. Good morning, guys. This is day 12 of my book reading challenge, and I actually finished Extreme Ownership pretty early. The way that I've kind of planned this out is that I'm trying to read one book every 15 days, and like I just said, this was day 12 and I finished Extreme Ownership. So one of the things that I think I've learned about getting back into reading is, especially if you find a good book, I kind of want to keep reading. One of the main things that's limited me on this is that I have to do other things throughout the day. So there's been times where I want to read more, but I just have to do other things, which sucks. But because I've actually planned this time out, I at least make sure that I meet the minimum amount of pages that would allow me to read one book every 15 days, which has allowed me to stay on track. And then in those times that I want to or can read more, I do, which is what has allowed me to get ahead. So that was just a learning lesson I have from this, but this was a great book. I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in leadership. It's got a lot of really good examples. It plays both off of Jocko Willink and Leif Babin's experience in the military, as well as their experience working with business leaders. In my opinion, I kind of like the military examples a bit more because they were able to be more specific, whereas with the business examples, they had to be a bit more general in order to protect their clients' identities. But I still found it to be a really interesting read and highly recommend that y'all check it out. Maybe one day I'll do a book summary on this. If you'd be interested, let me know in the comments down below. But in the meantime, I've got vacation coming up in the next 2 days or so, and I think that I'm going to be starting off on my next book, which is going to be The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. I've had that recommended by a lot of people, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on that, and maybe after that, I'll go ahead and read Start With Why by Simon Sinek. So if y'all have any more book recommendations, let me know in the comments down below. But I'm going to go ahead and get started on this next one, and I'll keep y'all updated on the journey as I go. One of the other things that I've noticed that I really enjoy about actually reading books is that I'm able to process and take notes on the information that I'm learning in real time. Whenever I'm listening to a podcast or a video, unless I have a note-taking app pulled up right then and there, I'm generally not taking notes on those things. So I don't always have something to refer back to unless I'm very intentionally pulling that video up for the sake of taking notes. The thing I like with books is that as I'm going through the book, if I find something interesting or I have questions, I can write it right there in the book. If I ever had questions on something that I learned, I can always reference right back to the book. Now, I don't always go back to books, but it's nice to have the option and the availability to go back and look at what it was that I was thinking at a certain moment in time. How's it going, everyone? I just finished my 29th day of reading, and as a result, my second book. So I've gotten 2 books done in less than a month, going to be starting on my 3rd tomorrow. This has been a really good experience. It's helped me to come back and rediscover my enjoyment for reading, and also just kind of make me think about things a little bit more. Every time that I start reading, it kind of gets me into the right mindset of thinking about my different goals and things that I want out of life. So I think this has been a really good challenge, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it in just a second. So the fact that I was able to read 2 books was really impressive to me. And if I had really wanted to and made this goal much higher of a priority, I could likely have read more. But I'm trying to actually retain some of the information that I have, so I'm not trying to just read a whole bunch and then not actually remember anything that I read. Every time I do this, I'm surprised by how much I actually enjoy reading. Whenever I start reading again, it's always a bit of a mental barrier just because of what I perceived to be a pretty big time commitment. But whenever I do start again, I always remember how much I do enjoy it because it forces me to encounter ideas that I haven't necessarily thought of before, and I find that kind of thing to be really interesting. Like I said earlier, reading books to me is really one of the best ways that you're going to be able to learn. And I hope that through me doing this challenge and telling you a little bit about my experience, I hope that you got to see that a little bit. If you found the information in this video to be helpful or informative at all, please let me know with a like and subscribe to the channel to join me along in this self-improvement journey. If you have any of your own thoughts, ideas, or opinions, let me know with a comment down below. If you're interested in more videos about learning, check out this video right here where I talk about 5 skills that everyone should know by the time they're 25. If you're interested in more of my most recent stuff, be sure to check out this video right here. But until the next time, this is the Mengineer, signing off.